As a masked man who beats criminals to a pulp with his bare hands in the middle of the night, Batman's stories often deal with dark and adult themes, and as such, the Dark Knight himself goes through a heck of a lot of trauma. I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and this is the top 10 worst things that happened to Batman. Number 10, repeatedly de-lifed by the Joker. In the 2000 Superman storyline, Superman Emperor Joker, it follows the Joker after he obtains the ability to alter reality by tricking Mr. Mxyzptlk into granting him 99.99% of his reality warping abilities. Joker does a whole bunch of wacky and horrible things, but in relation to this list, it's what he does to Batman that takes the cake. Using his ability to do pretty much anything he wants, he has Batman in an endless cycle of death and revival. Every day, Joker finds new and inventive ways to slay the Dark Knight, and every day he brings him back to life to do it all again. At one point, Superman finds the corpse of the Dark Knight and throws together a makeshift grave for his close friend, only for Batman to eventually burst through the freshly packed soil and reveal it all to the Man of Steel, saying, "I've reached the point where I've come to doubt my own existence." It's not a pleasant thought, but luckily Bruce had his memory wiped when things went back to normal. Number 9, Bane breaks his back. The setting is 1993's Batman number 497, Nightfall. With Batman suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, Venom-addicted genius Bane released all of the inmates from Arkham Asylum onto Gotham in order to wear Batman down even more. He outsmarted Batman at every turn, but proved too much for the Dark Knight physically when he broke the Cape Detective's back over his knee in a now iconic scene from their battle in the Batcave. The damage both to his body and his willpower proved so significant that Batman was temporarily forced to pass along the cape and cowl to someone else, and was confined to a wheelchair for several months, before having to return to stop his successor's killer form of justice. Number 8, Darkseid. Grant Morrison and J.G. Jones's 2008 event Final Crisis sees the totally fair facing off between Batman and Darkseid. In Final Crisis number 6, Batman breaks his promise to never use a blam blam, saying, "I made a very solemn vow about firearms, but for you, I'm making a once-in-a-lifetime exception." Batman uses his weapon to fire a radium bullet at Darkseid, and Darkseid responds by firing his Omega beams at the Dark Knight. Both the hero and the villain pass due to this, or do they? For Batman, the Omega sanction actually sent him back in time, causing the Dark Knight to be constantly passing away and being rebirthed as he fought his way through time all the way back to the modern era, when he had to actually pass away for reals, only to be resuscitated once again. As you can probably imagine, Batman's experiences across history were quite painful and traumatic, as was his eventual rebirth and return. That's a lot, even for Batman. Number 7, Barbara Gordon. Alan Moore and Brian Bolland's infamous 1988 Batman and Joker-centered story, The Killing Joke, had Joker do something most people just didn't expect: the crippling and violation of Batgirl, otherwise known as Barbara Gordon. The events of the story would eventually spur the newly wheelchair-bound Gordon into becoming the fan-favorite Oracle. It was incredibly divisive and controversial. While it won an Eisner Award at the time and was critically lauded as one of the best Batman stories ever told, it has definitely changed the tone of Batman comics with Frank Miller's 1986 The Dark Knight Returns, setting the tone even further down the dark rabbit hole. Writer Alan Moore has reflected on the story by saying, "It is far too violent," and called the book a regrettable misstep on my part, or on his part, I guess. For Batman, any harm done to any member of the Bat family is ultimately on his shoulders, and while she did not pass away, Barbara was forever crippled and altered by the event, something that haunts Batman forever. Number 6, taken advantage of. In possibly one of the more messed up things done by a non-Joker villain, Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul, in order to have a child, once put the Caped Crusader in a compromisable position with the use of some substances. She then proceeded to take advantage of the semi-unconscious Bruce Wayne to become pregnant. Maybe the worst part is that she birthed the child, Damian Wayne, in secret, and Bruce wasn't even aware of his son's existence until Talia dumped the little assassin on Batman's doorstep, completely throwing Bruce's life into madness. There are different versions of this tale where Bruce may have been in full possession of his faculties, but it is shown otherwise in Batman Volume 1 number 656, so I'll let y'all decide. Number 5. Damian's demise. The revelation that he was a father was something Batman was not quite ready for, but his attachment to and love for his son, Damian Wayne, has grown over time. Missing out on key moments of the young Wayne's life left a lot for Batman to teach him, and he had a mindset that Batman felt it necessary to correct through love, consistency, and hard work. Damian was becoming a fantastic Robin, even if he was a little smug and a little violent at times. He grew on many fans and on Batman himself, but just as Damian's mother had brought him into the world through deceit and villainy, she also played a key role in taking him out kind of the same way. Talia and her forces invaded Gotham, and when Damian was taken out by his mad clone, the Heretic, Batman experienced a loss that affected him so strongly he experienced a thirst for vengeance against all he thought responsible for his death. Eventually, that vengeance found its way to Apokolips, where Batman faced down Darkseid to retrieve his son's body, but ended up reviving him instead, so kind of good. Yeah. Number 4. Face Off. Surprise! It's the Joker again. In Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman Endgame storyline, the Joker eventually kidnaps the whole Bat family and has an incredibly messed up dinner party. The Joker has Batman in a chair that, thanks to pressure plates, will trigger the passing of the whole Bat crew if he gets up or tries to intervene. With each Bat family member wearing a bag over their head, Joker reveals their dinner, and it appears as though he has seemingly separated the skin from their faces and served it to them at the dinner table, with all the Bat family members revealed to have bandages on their faces. It's honestly terrifying and super gruesome, but it is all just a ruse to try and break Batman yet again. Instead, he proceeds to try and burn them all alive and then infects them all with the Joker toxin, causing them to fight each other, distracting Batman from his fight with the Clown Prince. Number 3. Death in the Family. Jason Todd was the first ever Robin to be killed in action. In the infamous A Death in the Family story, DC not only slew a Robin, but they did it in the most slow, brutal, and disturbing way they probably could have. Jason Todd had disobeyed direct orders from Bruce to not go near the Joker, but in an incredibly brutal comic book page, he does, and Joker is shown repeatedly beating Jason with a crowbar. But it's not just the crowbar that is what actually finishes off the incredibly tough Robin. Joker leaves him suffering on the brink of death with an explosive device. The hero manages to push through his injuries to get to the door, only to find that Joker had locked him in. Soon after the device goes off, Batman arrives on the scene and is completely heartbroken, almost ready to completely give up the Batman mantle. The loss of his adopted son haunts Batman every day, and it took a long time before he was able to take on another Robin. Number 2. Death of Alfred. In 2019's Batman number 77, Alfred Pennyworth is killed by Bane and Thomas Wayne, which is the Flashpoint Batman, in front of Damian Wayne's eyes. Bane and Thomas take Alfred hostage and warn the Bat family that if Batman comes into Gotham, Alfred is gonna be kaput. Alfred essentially sacrifices himself because he knows that Batman will not let Alfred get hurt. Alfred pleads with Bane, not in front of the boy, but with a twist of his arms, Bane snaps the neck of Bruce's father figure and oldest friend right in front of Damian Wayne. Bruce discovers the body of Alfred in Batman number 83, confirming that Alfred is in fact gone, and Bruce is beside himself with pain. As tears come to his eyes, he can barely even speak. Now, Alfred's death is kind of complicated since he does come back as a villain. Alfred is revived by a maniac named Brandon Crawford and brought back as the villain, the Outsider. Outsider's radiation-exposed powers include telekinesis and having a nearly impenetrable stone body. He has none of Alfred's memories or personality, and his singular goal is to destroy Batman and Robin. The realization of who this villain is just adds insult to injury for Bruce. And at number 1, Crime Alley. You had to have known this would show up on this list, and as the literal inciting incident that led to Batman's descent and rise to one of the greatest non-powered heroes the world has seen, the robbery and sequential passing of Bruce Wayne's parents right in front of him in Crime Alley at the hands of Joe Chill was one of the worst things to happen to him, as it would be for anyone who loses their parents at such a young age. It could have gone many darker ways, as we have seen in multiple alternate universes, like when he becomes an incredibly powerful and evil Green Lantern. But luckily, the Prime Universe Bruce Wayne uses this tragic loss to inspire himself to become the protector of Gotham, the Dark Knight, the Batman. There you have it. 10 of the worst things that have happened to DC's Dark Knight. Do you think something else should have made the list? Leave it in the comments, and while you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe at Top 10 Nerd. For now, I've been your host, Adam Andrews. You can find me on Instagram at _Schmadam, and until next time, peace out, nerds.